You're not automated. You're not fired. And yet, you live worse than your parents, while the statistics say the economy has never been better. How is it possible that the graphs are going up, but your life is going down? What if I told you we didn't suddenly become poor, but inch by inch, almost invisibly, we've been shifted from middle class into something that looks a lot more like a modern slave class? And the craziest part? The numbers that are supposed to reassure you are exactly the smokescreen hiding it.
To understand what's happening now, we need to go back, not to 2020, but to the 1980s. That's where a silent shift in the job market began, something economists started calling job polarization. Back then, there was a thick layer of well-paid middle-class jobs, factory work, office and admin, technical roles. Not millionaire money, but enough for a house, a car, a vacation. But from the 1980s onward, something strange happened. The number of middle-paid jobs started to fall, while jobs at the top and at the bottom grew.
Researchers saw that especially jobs with routine tasks were under attack, things computers and later robots could take over, standard paperwork, basic production, simple office work. Result? Millions of people who once had solid middle-class jobs got pushed into two directions, either into high-skill knowledge work at the top or into low-wage care, hospitality, and service work at the bottom. And this is where the slave class feeling starts. Because what happens at the bottom looks nothing like the old middle-class life. Researchers found that low-wage service jobs, think home care, cleaning, hospitality, retail, exploded in number. In places that used to rely heavily on routine work, people were pushed exactly into these jobs. More insecurity, lower pay, often physically heavy work.
And this isn't just about unskilled workers. People without a 4-year college degree who used to live decently from factory or office work saw their earnings and job prospects fall. So, what do you see? The middle class is being hollowed out. A small group escapes upward into highly paid, knowledge-intensive roles, and a much larger group slides into work that's essential, but structurally underpaid. Maybe this sounds familiar. You work hard. Your job is useful. People tell you society needs you, but your savings aren't growing. A house feels out of reach. You feel stuck.
And then the news says, the labor market is strong, unemployment is low, everything's fine. How can that be if you feel the opposite? Let's look at the numbers you hear every month. X jobs added, unemployment at historic lows. That official unemployment rate, often called U3, only counts people who are actively looking for work and have no job. Anyone with any job at all doesn't count as unemployed. But there's a broader measure, U6, that also includes people who work part-time but actually want full-time, are on the edges of the labor force, are discouraged and barely looking anymore. That number is always higher and reveals much more hidden pain. A low U3 can paint a very rosy picture. Look, almost everyone has a job. While underneath, people are underpaid, underused, or half pushed out of the system. And there's something even sneakier. The job growth everyone tweets about is often just a first estimate. It gets revised quietly later. In 2025, for example, it turned out the U.S. labor market had created far fewer jobs than first reported. Annual revisions removed around 900,000 jobs from the earlier totals. After those revisions, the country hadn't added about 49,000 jobs per month in 2025, but closer to 15,000. That's basically a flat labor market, despite months of bullish headlines. So for months, everyone thinks, see, things are going well, jobs are booming. Only much later comes the little footnote. Oh, those numbers? There were actually far fewer. For the stock market and investors, this works great. Optimistic numbers support confidence, keep asset prices high, and keep panic away. But your paycheck doesn't move.
In theory, a truly tight labor market should push wages up. But if there's hidden slack, people desperate for work, stuck in part-time, or quietly pushed out, employers don't feel much pressure to pay more. So yes, the numbers aren't exactly fake, but they're not telling you the whole story. And meanwhile, an entire generation is being nudged silently in the wrong direction. So the real question becomes, can you still escape that pull?
A modern slave class doesn't look like it does in history books. No chains, no auctions. But it does mean maximum dependency, minimal bargaining power. Think of jobs where you're easily replaceable, schedules that change last minute, incomes that are just enough to survive, but never enough to build real wealth. Care, retail, delivery, hospitality work that keeps society running, but is rarely rewarded as valuable in pay. Through technology, automation, and globalization, many routine middle-class tasks have been hollowed out. The result? A labor market with a thin top, a large, vulnerable lower tier, and growing inequality. Maybe you recognize yourself in this. You're constantly tired, you have no financial buffer, and a surprise bill of $500 hits like a disaster. And yet you keep hearing, the economy is doing well. That's what structural entrapment feels like. Not because you're lazy or stupid, but because the game board has shifted while you were told it's still the same game. If the game has changed, then what is still a winning strategy? What kinds of skills and sectors belong to the free class and which belong to the bound class?
Let's get very concrete. What kinds of work are less vulnerable in the coming years and which ones are dangerous? A key insight from recent research into AI and automation, it's not just about high or low education, but about what you actually do. Jobs with lots of repeatable, predictable tasks have a higher risk. Jobs that solve complex problems, manage people, or require deep human contact are more robust. No job is 100% safe. But roles where you can collaborate with technology instead of being replaced by it, solve complex, non-standard problems, and carry responsibility for people, processes, or money are more likely to grow in value instead of being hollowed out. The biggest mental traps are, my sector is stable, so I'm safe. Banks, media, retail, all stable until technology changed the rules. I have a permanent contract, so I'm fine. If your tasks are interchangeable, your contract is a delay, not protection. I'm not technical, that's not for me. You don't have to become a programmer, but if you don't build digital, data, or AI-related skills, you're unconsciously choosing the bottom. One simple test. If you take a day off tomorrow and your boss thinks, this is going to be tricky, you've probably built unique value. If no one notices, you're replaceable.
So, to sum it up, the middle class didn't vanish overnight. It was slowly drained by automation, globalization, and policies that are great for pretty statistics and stock prices. Official numbers show the surface, low unemployment, decent job growth. But if you look at revisions, broader unemployment measures, and the types of jobs that are growing, you see something else. A growing underclass of people who work but don't move forward. You don't have to be part of that, but you need to stop thinking in terms of sector and start thinking in terms of skills. Can I solve problems that don't fit in a script? Can I work with data and AI tools instead of feeling threatened by them? Do I have skills that become more scarce as automation spreads? In the end, the real question isn't, are we becoming a slave class? It's, on which side of this new system will you stand?